All right, guys, let's go ahead and kick off our Champion Mentor webinar. Again, for those of you that I may not have met in person, I know I've met you virtually. My name is Dayton Hanson. I'm our Chief Operating Officer. One of the things that you guys are probably aware of by now is we love to do these Champion Mentor webinars where we'll bring in different champions, whether they're entrepreneurs, tennis champions, golf champions, anyone related to a passion whatsoever, and have them kind of come in and share their knowledge, their insight, their background, and give you guys an opportunity to kind of learn and glean from them and understand how they became as successful as they are today. So it's not always roses along the way. There's always some bumps along the way as well. So hopefully we can get some good insight from Cameron. So let me start by introducing Cameron. So first and foremost, Cameron, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Cameron is an individual that, you know, I had a chance to speak with some of the folks at his organization not too long ago, and he said it very well in the sense that he and I have kind of always known each other's names in crossing paths in different ways and have been acquaintances, but have never, you know, really technically hung around each other too much. And it was a really good opportunity as we started talking about ICL and as he started talking about what he was doing in his world to bring him on as a business champion and let him share some of his insights. So with that said, Cameron, I'm going to quickly just allow you to maybe give a 30-second background on yourself, you know, maybe kind of, you know, where you grew up and maybe a little bit about your family and things like that. And then we'll jump into some questions if you're good with that.
Yeah, of course, man. Well, thanks for having me on. I'm excited about this. To give you a little bit about info about myself, I grew up in Gilbert, Arizona, and always had a passion for aviation. Actually went and got all my aviation licenses while I was in high school. So I have my single engine, my multi-engine, my instrument, and helicopter. Shortly after that, I served a mission for my church, and I served in Edmonton, Canada for 2 years. And like most missionaries, I got recruited when I got home to sell door to door. And that's kind of what sparked my journey into doing pest control. So long story short, started Green Mango in 2010 with one truck, one business partner, and our goal is to be the biggest in the valley. And fast forwarding now, 13 years later, we're one of the biggest companies in Arizona. We have over 100 trucks. We do over $24 million in revenue. And since I've started 5 other service companies, whether it be carpet cleaning, windshield replacements, alarms, solar, any of that stuff. So, I mean, entrepreneurship is my passion. Home services is what I specialize in. And I've paid the price to learn a lot of lessons. And that's why I love doing these things now, is because, you know, I feel like I'm still pretty young. I'm only 35 years old, but I've been through and seen a lot of different things in business. And I'm excited to talk about those things tonight.
Damn, that's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that. You know, I can't remember, and you'll have to jog my memory a little bit. When you were growing up, obviously, I doubt you kind of raised your hand at 6 years old and said, hey, I'm going to run a pest control company, or I'm going to knock doors, this or that. You know, when you were growing up, maybe early days as, you know, elementary school, middle school, high school, were you playing any sports or anything like that? Was there anything that you had a passion about before you got into the business world?
Yeah, I wanted to do basketball. That was my thing.
Okay, awesome. And where did that stop for you? So did you go up into high school, play in high school? Did you stop in junior high? Where did you stop playing basketball?
I stopped playing in high school
Okay.
and just, yeah, for whatever reason, went on my mission. And when I got home, I didn't want to go to college and I didn't get any offers before. And so I started working.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, again, it's interesting because a lot of our students, they have a spark somewhere and they're very passion based in the sense that they might be a basketball player, they might be a tennis player, a golfer, et cetera. And the goal, I think all of us, I know when I was growing up, I thought I was going to be a baseball player. I wanted to be a baseball player. I went and played collegiately, but it just didn't pan out for me. And I entered the business world and I'm glad I did. It's been, you know, incredibly beneficial for myself and my family, but I learned a lot along the way. And so as I talk about learning a lot along the way, can you share maybe an experience or maybe a lesson during maybe your youth that could potentially influence your career? So as you got into some of your career choices, you started Green Mango, and as you started making some, you know, branching out and making some different choices, was there anything from your youth that resonated with you? Maybe sometime you persevered or anything along those lines?
Yeah, so it actually happened in basketball. It was my sophomore year. I was playing varsity and actually starting on varsity. And I had this coach that had a unique way, we'll call it, of coaching, right? If we weren't doing something correctly, he would always have 2 or 3 freshmen sit on the bench. And if we weren't doing it properly, he would throw the freshmen in and essentially, like, to prove a point, just, hey, you know what? You don't want to play hard or you want to turn the ball over or whatever it might be. I'm going to put these freshmen in. we'd get down by like 20 or 30, and then he'd put the starters back in and expect us to come back and win. And time he would do this, and it would just frustrate me because I was playing out of fear, and I hated that. I didn't want to play out of fear. No one does well when they're playing out of fear, and that's a huge business principle with work, is that when you encourage and appreciate, that's when you see people making the change, not because you're threatening them with their job. But that's not the principle I was talking about. The one that I learned is that I actually, one day in a game, my coach was doing this. He pulled me out, he sat me on the bench, and I told my buddy was sitting in the student section behind me. Everyone's back there yelling, and I looked back at him and I said, if he doesn't put me in within the next 2 minutes, like, I'm gonna walk. And he didn't. And so I walked, and my buddy tells the story. My coach, like, the next quarter later, is yelling down the bench. He used to call me Bawden. My last name's Bawden, but he'd call me Bawden. Bawden, where are you at? And he's like, I was gone. My coach, or actually my dad, came over that night. My parents were divorced. My dad came over and he said, look, I don't care, you committed to start this team. I don't care who your coach is or what he's doing to you, but you need to get back on the team. And, so I went back with my tail between my legs, and I talked to my coach. He came over, and, I expressed to him why I was frustrated. But he said this, he said, look, I'll let you back on the team, but you're never going to start another game. He said, I'll play you, but you're never going to start. And that was hard for me because, I have the A-type personality. I like to be in charge. It was a goal. I was a sophomore starting varsity. But so I came back and I finished that season and played again the next season. But it was a lesson that when you commit to start something, you finish it no matter what, no matter who the coach is or who the employees are, or whatever the circumstances, you finish what you start.
That's awesome. I love that. You kept saying the word commitment, and that resonates so well with what we talk about here at ICL. We're very big on character, on leadership, obviously promoting that level of perseverance and resilience. And when you talk about commitment, that it's so relatable with our kids, because again, every one of them is so passion focused. And like you talked about, many of our students right now are that type A personality. They expect to be the best. They expect to win. They constantly expect to, be number one, whatever it may be. And so it's hard when you get dealt some of those blows here and there. But the fact of, like you said, you turned it into a positive experience of, you kind of put your tail between your legs. You said, hey, I committed to this. I made that commitment early on, and I'm going to stick to it. So that's huge. I'm going to pivot gears and kind of go a different direction a little bit. Early in your career, any challenges you faced early on? And if so, what was one of those challenges, and how did you overcome that challenge early on in your career?
Like a lot of companies, there was a time 3 years into Green Mango where I owed my dad was an investor. He invested $250,000 into Green Mango, and it was year three. I was out on a route spraying a house, and I didn't know how you'd make money. I wasn't making any money, and I didn't want to just close the business because I didn't want to lose my dad 250 grand. It's a lot of money. And I just remember, on the phone call with him, just saying, like, I'm sorry, we're going to try and sell this thing. And luckily, no one wanted to pay us 250 grand for Green Mango. And it was a testament to me that we just had to keep going and fighting through. And over time, we started, it was another probably 2 to 3 years after that to where I first took my first, distribution from Green Mango. But it was just perseverance. And I think, kind of going back to the last lesson, hey, once you start something, you finish it no matter what. I learned that with Green Mango, is that, hey, I wanted to quit just like basketball. I couldn't get customers at a decent acquisition cost, or these technicians would quit. And that's all the things coming at you. You need to figure out a way to push through. And that's what you do as an entrepreneur. That's what you do as an athlete, is that there's always going to be outside circumstances. If you want to be the best, shut those out and focus on you and what you can do. And eventually you'll push through. Now, like I said, Green Mango's worth over $100 million, and I would have given it away 10 years ago for 250.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, you hit on a few different kind of lessons there, in the sense of, you talked about the mental space a little bit. You have to shut those outside sources out a little bit and push them out of your mind. And that's such a big thing with, many of our kids, and just in life in general. I mean, there's so much outside noise that you've got to be able to focus on the task at hand. But one of the other things that resonated with me that you just said was something that Steve Nash, shared a few months back. And I think, we've shared this before, but it's about the process and you kind of trusted the process. And I love that you stuck with it and you kind of said, hey, you know what, the outcome, while it's important, it's not the end all be all. If I focus on the process, it will lead to the outcome that I'm hoping for. And clearly that's what has happened in this case, because like you said, Green Mango's in a very good place now and has allowed you to be more successful, as a business person, as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So, Cam, tell me a little bit about keys to success. So, I know you just gave a little bit of feedback on, kind of how you've been resilient. You talked a little bit about commitment. Tell me a little bit about keys to success. What do you think are kind of the key factors that have contributed to your success thus far?
A big part of my success is surrounding myself with the right people. And then when I surround myself with the right people, is getting the proper expectations that I have onto them. And, we were talking right before this. It's not like I'm perfect at this, I'm far from it. But what I've seen is that when I can relay my expectations through KPIs, which are key performance indicators, and expectations of exactly how I want things ran. When you think of a legal document, if it's 200 pages, 199 of those pages are outlining, defining terms and words and what they mean. You can be having two different conversations. And when you can sit down with a person and make sure he understands your vision for that position, when he understands exactly who you are and what you stand for, he's going to perform. And that's the only way I've been able to scale, because there's a lot of companies that can't scale. And that's because they don't trust other people. And when they do trust the other people, they fire them or get rid of them within 3 to 6 months, because there's a gap there of misunderstanding and failed expectations.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. So you hit on this a little bit as you were talking right there, and you started to talk about kind of key performance indicators and metrics. Tell me a little bit about how that ties into goals, and how do you approach kind of setting goals, for your staff? Do you set the goals for them? Do you let them set their goals? What advice would you give to our students as they're thinking maybe through the lens of business or also tied to their passion? What advice would you give to them about setting goals? How can they go about that? And what's a realistic way to think about setting goals?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk for a long time. I just did a podcast about this, because the argument was this, is that if you're not a fitness person, you probably shouldn't make a goal to go work out for 2 hours every single day. I wouldn't encourage that. But if you're trying to get into fitness, a win would be 3 times a week for 30 minutes a time. So an hour and a half a week is probably a proper goal for you. Now, if you are a fitness person and you're wanting to elevate your game, let's say you're already working out for an hour a day or 2 hours a day, and you want to run a marathon or you want to do an Ironman, and you go and train, that is obtainable, and that's a goal that you can stretch yourself. So it depends on where you're at as an athlete. What I see a lot of people do, and especially if we want to stay on this topic of health and fitness, January 1st comes around, everyone says, hey, I want to lose 30 pounds, I want to lose 20 pounds. February 1st hits, they've lost 2 pounds and they get discouraged and they just stop. And that's where I get frustrated with people when they're setting goals that are just outside of their reach. So if you're an athlete and you can set a high goal that if you don't achieve it, that you don't get frustrated, then that's okay. But if you are on the exact opposite, set that goal that just gets you going down the road. Because like I said, it's not like you need to bat 1,000 every single day. You just need to, shoot. Steph Curry, he shoots 500 shots every single day. Well, you do 500 times, 6 days a week, or if it's 7 days a week, 365 days a year, he's shooting a lot of shots. 500 shots a day isn't that much.
Right. That's great. Yeah, you kind of hit on something that one of our champion mentors touched on. I think probably about 2 months ago, we had one of our tennis coaches join us. His name was Christian Grow, and
Yeah.
he was talking about goals, and it was tying to trusting the process and things like that. And what he said was, I don't recommend kids go in and focus on winning the tournament. I recommend them going in and setting a goal of becoming better at an aspect. For example, maybe they want to get better at their forehand or they want to get better at their backhand. Make the entire tournament about improving that forehand so that you're setting a SMART goal where it's something that's attainable. I think it's good, and you kind of alluded to this as well. It's great to have stretch goals. A stretch goal, for me as a kid would have been to play pro baseball. And that
Yeah.
was that utopian state, that stretch goal, similar to you. You wanted to play pro basketball or at least get into the basketball world. That's that stretch goal. It's that utopian state. But at the same time, there's those milestones along the way that are those SMART goals that become more attainable. And that really allows you to kind of stay positive while still handling the negativity and the challenges, but still stretch towards that goal that you ultimately want to reach.
You just don't want to get frustrated that process. If you're making it a goal at the beginning, it's because you want to be the best at that at some point. And it's probably not that year, or else you're not looking far enough down the road, and you're not going to get great at something the first year. It's going to take years and years of practice to get there. So don't get burnt out by saying, hey, I want to win the championship this first year when you don't even know what that's like.
I love that. I'm going to kind of tie this together for this next question, and it ties to a question that came in from one of our students. You are in the business world, Cameron. We've talked a little bit about sports, obviously, but I want to ask you, what makes a great leader? What are the qualities? What can you recommend to our young individuals to help develop their, leadership skills? What are the main qualities that helped you become a great leader? And I'm sure you're continuing just as I am. You probably learn from others and yourself on a daily basis that you'll never probably use the word perfect, because I don't think perfect is ultimately something that's attainable, but continuing to try and develop. So I'll pose that question to you again. What qualities make up a great leader? How have you become a great leader over time?
It's one thing, like I said, it's one thing that I'm working on. I'm not perfect at it, but appreciation and encouragement is what makes a great leader. And you read about Andrew Carnegie, who hired Charles Schwab back in the day. I think it was in the 1920s. He paid him $1 million a year. The going rate at that time, if you were making $50,000 a year, you were considered a very wealthy man. He paid him $1 million, and it wasn't because he knew more about skill than anyone else. It was because he knew how to appreciate and encourage his team better than anyone in the whole world. So in business, in sports, whatever it might be, if you're always shaking your head at your teammate, getting frustrated with them, tearing them down and why they suck, or whatever they're doing wrong, you're doing is jamming that guy down into the ground. Not very many people rise to the occasion of talking about how horrible they are. But if you say, hey, that defensive stop or that block or that shot was great or that pass was awesome, and you just keep giving them those appreciations and those encouragements, it makes them rise to a new level that they're not even holding themselves to. It's like, wow, Cameron thinks I'm this great person, that I always have my stuff together and appreciates me showing up on time, being early, encourages me to continue to have those talks with my team. I need to do that. He's complimenting me on it. Like I gotta own up to it. I don't want him to think I'm not doing it. And those two words can literally make or break a leader.
Yeah, I love that because I think it resonates not only in the business world, but just life in general. I mean, you said a couple of things there that it makes me think of not only our students, but also our parents as well. And, being someone that's encouraging and uplifting and trying to find a way to be supportive, you think of it through the parent lens. I know I'm a parent, you're a parent, and we've got many parents that have joined us tonight here and they're listening in. And you think about it. I mean, our kids are tied into these passions and they want to be successful and they want to be the best, but there's so much pressure and there's so much going on that you just never know what that little conversation might help spark in their journey as we talk about that process. And so I love how you brought that into the mix. And then on the flip side, I'm going to tie it to our next question. Those same elements of kind of being that type of person and encouraging, that applies to our students as well, because even if you're in an individual sport, maybe you're a tennis player, maybe you're a golfer, whatever it may be, maybe you don't have teammates per se,
Yeah.
it still resonates with something that we consider a core foundational element of ICL Academy, and that's character. And so I want to dig into character a little bit with you, Cam, and I want to ask you a question of, how have your personal values, you talked about your personal life when we started, how have your personal values and your character played a role in your professional achievements thus far?
As an owner, as a CEO, your integrity is kind of put at test almost every single day through bonuses that you could or could not pay, hourly wages, fulfillments to the customer, fulfillments to your employees, however it might be. But I mean, I think your integrity is one of the most important things, and being your word. And I know those kind of tie together, but in my opinion, there's a difference between when you tell someone you're going to do it you do it, you follow through on that. And that's what makes a great CEO. And, it's just, I don't know, I can go forever about, promises that you made. People hold on to it. You look at it, as a student with a coach, if he tells you, hey, if you shoot 500 shots a day, you will be on the starting team, and you go shoot 500 shots and you don't make the starting team, like that's discouraging, and it's the same thing in business. If you tell this person, hey, if you do this, you're going to get your bonus, and then he doesn't get it, he's going to quit. He's not going to follow through with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something that I think character in this day and age is such a challenge, in the sense of everything that we're dealing with, whether that's internal pressure or external pressure. At the end of the day, though, we can always look back at ourselves and our individual character and uphold the highest level of integrity and character. And that's something we have control of. I often talk about responding versus reacting. And I think, you've heard me say this before, Cameron. We have a choice. We have a choice to respond in a situation. We have a choice to react in a situation. And it's interesting because that's a huge mantra of mine. And I just sat down and listened to a lesson 4 days ago. And I had no idea that this individual was going to talk about this. And he started talking about responding versus reacting. And I was just over the moon about how important that is, because you have that option in your life. And this goes right into what we do at ICL when we're on the court, when we're on the field, when we're in the classroom. If you get frustrated, if maybe something doesn't go your way, you have two options. You have swim lane one, which is a response. You have swim lane two, which is a reaction. And in a response, not always, but typically, it gives you 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days to think about how you want to approach your next step. Wherein if you react, typically a reaction is negativity. It's driven by emotion. It doesn't always come across the right way. And that reaction may be something that can cause long-term damage. It might only be a short-term bump in the road, but it can also cause long-term damage where maybe it impacts the relationship between you and your coach. It might impact the relationship between you and your parent. And so again, tying kind of the things back together, how we show up from a character perspective and the person we are is so crucial in kind of, what we do in life.
Yeah, and I just want to add to the appreciation and encouragement is that what we look for is what we see. So if you're training your teammates or your coworkers to look for and appreciate your teammates and encourage them, they're going to look for what they're doing right. If you're always looking for what they're doing wrong, trust me, you're going to find that. And so it changes, and it literally flips a switch in your head to say, hey, guys, at Green Mango or at Hype Farm, we appreciate and we encourage. And therefore, when you're walking around and we start a meeting off by saying, hey, let's talk about the wins, talk about, your we call them manager shout outs. So we literally spend 5 minutes and it's quiet and it's just until someone speaks up of, hey, I want to, I want to highlight Roy. I want to highlight David. He did this or he did that. And they know that we do that. And so throughout the week, they're looking for, okay, what is Marcy doing? What is David doing? What's he doing? Because I want to compliment them on that, as opposed to what's he not doing. And your teammate is the same way. What's he doing well? Is he hustling? Is he showing up? Is he working on his forehand? Is he practicing his dribbles? Whatever it might be, that's important to recognize because everyone needs that encouragement in life. Everyone's walking around wondering if they're okay, if they're good enough, especially athletes who have this pressure on them to perform at the highest peak. Your athletes walking around looking for validation. Am I okay? If you go up to your teammate and say, dude, you hustled today, man. I can tell you wanted it. You're going to boost him up for 2 weeks. I don't care who you are. Like, you're going to feel great. And guess what's going to happen? He's going to feel so good that the next day, he's going to be looking for how well you're doing. And he wants to compliment you because he wants to pay it forward. Think of a team like that, as opposed to the team that's always like, dude, you suck, you're lazy. Hey, get back on defense. Like, it doesn't work, man. It's really fun. I'm coaching my little boy's team right now. He's 10 years old. And I've adopted this and I'm trying to adopt it in every aspect of my life. And so instead of talking about ways that these 10-year-olds can improve in basketball, which you and I both know there's a million different ways, I'm just talking about how well they're doing on what they're doing. And it lights them up and it makes them want to hustle. And it gives them that confidence because most of the time in sports and in business, it's all about the confidence. People are laughing at Mahomes and, saying, oh, he doesn't deserve it. Or he's cocky, all these different things. I love Mahomes. I say, hey, you can't measure swag. You can't measure confidence. He has it. That's why he'll probably go, Everyone thought he was going to lose on Sunday. I don't know if he'll win the Super Bowl, but it's like, dude, that guy's swaggy. And swag and confidence gets you a long ways in sports, in relationships, in business, in getting the job, whatever it might be. You have that confidence, you're going to win. And still, that confidence in your teammates, and you'll win as well.
Well, and you used a word there, Cam. You tied the two together, which was confidence and swag. Never did you say arrogance. And I don't look at someone like Patrick Mahomes as arrogant. Patrick Mahomes is confident. And that's what we, as leaders, as individuals, and within ICL, that's what we want to instill, is that level of confidence. And your confidence, to your point, builds over time through the encouragement that you've received, seeing the process come into place, and obviously leading to that outcome. And so I love that you talk about that, that confidence component, that swag component, because again, that's relatable. Whether we're a tennis player, a basketball player, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, having that level of confidence in yourself, your confidence is going to be tested from time to time. You're going to have setbacks. You're going to have, I'll just talk personally. I was fortunate and blessed to be very successful when I was a high school baseball player, football, basketball, things like that. Well, I was accustomed to doing very well. There were multiple times my senior year as I was preparing for college and I had scouts, pro scouts looking at me. I started the year as, I think, the number 2 or 3 ranked individual of someone to watch in the state. And my first 2 or 3 starts as a pitcher, I was awful. I was terrible. And I'll tell you what, it beat me up. My confidence, I was reeling. I was wild in the sense of when I get on the mound, I wasn't hitting my spots. And I had to take a step back. And I had, luckily at that time, a very good coach and other teammates that helped build me back up and say, hey, you've got this. You've shown you've got this. You can do this. And again, it helped build my confidence back up. So I think that's big of what you kind of just shared about that level of confidence.
It goes without saying, but imagine if you didn't have the coach that thought like, oh, I'm gonna lead out of fear, because that's the easy way out. If a leader is leading with power and not authority, meaning encouragement, you're not gonna, like, that's the cop out. You're being lazy. That's not a good leader. So if your coach wasn't a good coach and he just went out there and would rip into you because he thought that would fire you up, you would have probably never recovered from that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to change gears slightly, Cam, and I'm going to talk a little bit about, again, something that we consider kind of a core fundamental foundational point at ICL, and that's around giving back, giving back to the community. Excuse me, giving back to the community. One of the things we're going to be doing in about a month from now is we've got some of our students and families joining out along with our staff in Florida. There's a tennis event out there, and they're partnered together with this group called Acing Autism. And so we're very big on giving back. And so I've seen, through your efforts in the past, that you're very big on giving back. Would you mind sharing an experience of maybe something, a project or something that's very near and dear to your heart where you give back and through that kind of philanthropic effort?
Yeah, no, for sure. As a company, one of the biggest things that we do is our food drive once a year. So it's been really fun. We get all the companies together. We usually have an athlete. So when DeAndre Ayton was here in Phoenix, we got him as kind of the face that builds a lot of hype. And we do all these competitions, and then we partnered with another school here, a charter school here, ALA, and we pushed it out through them. And so we were able to raise, I forget the exact amount, but thousands and thousands of pounds of food for starving children and people in general. And it's really cool when you're doing something like that as a team and as an organization. It brings you together even closer because you're serving people. We're pushing out content to our customers. We're saying, hey, technicians coming by, would you mind donating 1 can? Like, that's it. If you have more, great, but at least one. And the technicians are picking it up. They're feeling good about themselves. We're holding competitions within our organization. So then there's that factor of like, hey, I'm going to beat you. Your team's going to beat me. Who's better? And we're giving out, jerseys and basketballs, and it makes it fun. So that's been a huge blessing. But one shout out to my wife, because my kids and a lot of kids in Gilbert, Arizona grow up, and they don't know what it's like to go without. And it's important to understand how some people live that are less fortunate. So it's been really fun. We try and do something once a month with my family where we go to the food bank and either we serve food or prepare food. We've gone and packed, the rice at the distribution and, sent it off. But looking for those service opportunities you know, it's almost selfish because you can't walk out of there and not feel like you're a better person. And then when you do it as an organization, as a team, you guys are feeling better as a team. Like, hey, collectively, we did this. We're together. We're this brotherhood. And just like a team, like there's a reason why they do those bonding experiences. Come over for pizza, let's hang out, you know, come jump and, you know, let's do the pool party. Has nothing to do with tennis, has nothing to do with basketball, has nothing to do with the company. We're trying to bond here. Service helps you bond. You're all working for free. You're trying to make someone else's day. And it's powerful.
Yep, I love that. I mean, it ties right back into what we talked about 5, 10 minutes ago about building character. You know, I mean, think about it when you're there on the front lines helping, whether you're packing, like you said, you know, rice or at the distribution center, whatever it may be, you know, again, you're giving back. And every time I partake in those opportunities, I walk away feeling so much better. And it's not because somebody forced me to do it. It's because I chose to kind of step up and wanted to do it. And again, you don't have to be in a privileged situation. You could be super privileged. You could be not privileged at all of us can give back. You know, we have an array of experiences. We have an array of families that we work with. Mine, your life are different than themselves. You know, we're not the same person. And so even with that said, it's like, you know, we can all give back. We can all find ways to help the community. And again, it does build that level of character. And that's something that's going to be with us for a long time and we can always continue to do. So that's huge.
Yeah.
Cam, I got a couple more questions for you, and then I'm going to wrap things up because I want to make sure that, you know, again, I'm cognizant of people's time, and we've had some really good questions coming in, which I appreciate, and I love this. And our students and families are clearly getting a lot out of this, kind of getting messages on the side, and they're all very excited about what you're saying. And I'm sure there's going to be some follow-ups where I'm asking you stuff on the side where maybe I'll ask for some advice on this or that. But one or two more questions as you think about our group here, you know, we've got kids that are as young as 5th grade, they go as high as 12th grade. Again, many of them are passion based. Obviously, we've got some parents on the call as well. But as you think about our kids, what advice would you offer to them as they're navigating their journey? What's, you know, they're pursuing a dream. What advice would you give them as they're trying to pursue their dream?
One of the greatest quotes that I ever heard when I was growing up is that show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And that's applicable when I was 5 years old. It was applicable when I was 15. It's applicable today that who you surround yourself with is, you know, who you're going to essentially be. And I would just encourage all the athletes that are out there is that you know, you guys are in this program for a reason. I would have killed to have something like this. My parents weren't forcing me to, you know, to go play the collegiate level or to take it seriously or have the privates or, you know, it's not to say, I don't know, like it's just sports are different than when I was there, you know, and everyone's got a private coach now. And take advantage of these people that you're around, learn from them. And, you know, if you know someone's not about what you're doing, don't spend time with them because they will drag you down. And I've seen it time and time after again.
That's amazing. Yep. I'm going to tie us up with this one final question, and it kind of is similar to what I just asked you. And so it may be a shorter response from you, or you may just give like a thumbs up and say, hey, I'm good. But, you know, it's more of an inspiration question. As we think of closing tonight's webinar up, and I know you just talked about advice you could give, what piece of advice that is tied to inspiration would be something that you could give? Obviously, you just shared a little bit about, you know, that journey and the process. Is there anything else inspiring that you could say of as they're on their journeys, whether academically or from a passion standpoint, that you could give to the kids as they walk away? Kind of the one final thing from you.
Yeah, my biggest thing is that, I mean, anything that you feel like you can accomplish it with hard work. And that's what, you know, we didn't dive too deep into goals, but essentially, like, if you want to go play in the NBA, cool, there's a formula for how you can go play in it. You might not like the answer, but what's cool about whatever it is, it can be broken down into these simple steps that you can do each day. And if you stay consistent with those small steps, you're gonna have a very good chance of playing in the NBA. And it might come down to 4 hours a day or 3 hours a day of ball handling or whatever it might be. But most of the time, you know, they talk about if you can, you know, one of my things is I want to be a better reader. Like I haven't been a huge person on reading books. I do a lot of audio books and, you know, podcasts, but I want to become a better reader. And 15 minutes a day, they say will help me become a better reader in a year. So 15 minutes a day for a full year, I can be a great reader that can plow through books. And I've been doing it for the past 3 months. I've been finishing a book every single month just by reading 15, sometimes it's 20 minutes a day, but at least 15 minutes a day. If you want to be great at something, all it takes is 15 minutes a day. So it's
I love
consistency
that.
is the key.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, you hit on an interesting point earlier. You talked about kind of those type A personalities, and we have a lot of those. I mean, I myself am one, as are you. And in the world we live in now, it's all about immediate gratification. And so again, you just touched on some really core elements there of, listen, it's the little bite-sized pieces that help you follow that path and that journey. And every one of our students has an individual pathway that we've helped them create. Some of our students that are with us that are on this call tonight, they have a goal that they've set for themselves that they want to go to an Ivy League school. We have other students that they want to go to a different type of D1, maybe it's a D2, maybe it's a D3. Other students that just simply want to go to college. Doesn't matter where they go. They just have the goal of going to college because maybe they're the first in their family. But it all ties back to what you just talked about, which is it's that trust of the process. It's the individual elements that all lead to that overall outcome at some point, but there's all those individual elements along the way.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll just say is like words of affirmation. It's one of the most powerful things you can do. I love ice baths. I take an ice bath almost every single day. I pray, one of the first things I do is I pray in the ice bath, and then I give my words of affirmation, and I speak into existence who I want to be, who I am. And there's some things that I'm lying to myself. I tell myself I'm the best reader. I'm not the best reader right now, but hey, I'm the best reader, and I'm lying to myself, and I believe, and I start to believe it, and I'm telling myself that's who I am. And there's just power in filling your mind with the thoughts that you want to hear. And that's why hanging out with the right people are so important, because they're going to drag you down, not drag you up.
That's amazing. Well, Cameron, I want to stop for a second. First and foremost, I want to say thanks. This was amazing that you were able to come together with us for about, 30, 45 minutes and just share about your background. We're excited to have you on as a champion mentor. Obviously, we know you'll kind of be lurking in the background in case we've got parents or kids that are interested in kind of learning more. And of course, we can have that direct connection of them reaching out to me and then me to you. So again, I want to take a moment and say thank you. It means a lot to have you on tonight.
Yeah, man, appreciate your time.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for joining us. As I shared earlier, we'll go ahead and get the recording situated here in the next couple of days. We'll send it out to everybody. Those that couldn't join, we know that there'll be individuals that want to see this as well. And we'll put that in our library of our champion mentor webinars. So thanks again. I hope everybody has a wonderful night and take care.